Hey everybody, this is Dane with North Star Ball, and I'm here today interviewing the Minnesota Store Champs Week 1 winners. We actually decided to do constructed rather than the UW 1 and 2 limited series. So, without further ado, we can just go ahead and get into it. Go ahead and introduce yourself and your deck.
Yeah, my name's Anthony. Been playing for a while now, up in Minnesota, but I played Green Go Tanks this week. Ever since the cards got revealed, it was kind of the deck that piqued my interest the most, and so yeah, it worked out pretty well this weekend.
What was your record and who did you play?
Yeah, we did a three-round tournament. I ended up going 3-0. First round, I ended up playing a Bulma that was running the red Gogeta engine, the 5 drop to 6 drop to. I never saw if he had the secret rare, but all that good blocker stuff. Round two, I ended up playing a Gogeta leader that obviously does Gogeta things, double strike, plays Gotenks unison, does all the same stuff.
Double strike, so a lot of double strike.
Yeah, just swing, swing, swing. Um, that was that's a pretty well versed match. I played that quite a few times. That went just about how I thought it would. You'll see how the deck kind of played against that as we get to it. But after that, I played Blue Dot Deck, as we call it in Minnesota. Just a bunch of good blue stuff in Soul Striker. No, not Soul Striker. It was SS3.
It was my
reboot.
SS3, yeah.
Ah, the reboot. Yeah. So, no, not Soul Striker. It was reboot SS3.
Awesome. Well, what kind of made you specifically want to bring Go Tanks as opposed to some of your other decks like Vegex or anything like that?
I love decks that can awaken even if your opponent doesn't want you to. The fact that this deck, and this leader allows you to just play your 2-drop unison and awaken and pick to 6. I started when it was stall, stall, stall. Maybe you get to awaken if your opponent lets you and then they kill you, but that's not what Go Tanks lets you do. It can be turn 2. I pick up all my life. You haven't touched me yet.
So, leader.
Yeah, the leader, pretty standard. It's when this card attacks, draw 1 card, and then when you have a 2 cost or you're at 4 or less, you stand 1 and draw 1. And on the Awaken side, the best thing about this leader is the permanent. Your opponent can't attack your battle cards. Their leader card can't. So again, it stops I'm gonna use my swing draw to try and kill one of your cards and get value. That kind of, and plus when they do it with a battle card, all your cards have revenge if your unison is out. So I think that's the best thing about the backside of the leader. Pretty standard as well. It draws when it swings, and then its other effects are okay. 1 green to remove a marker is pretty okay. I think the green tokens that come in rest mode is unfortunate because they don't have combo power and you can't swing with them right away. But in matchups like Sin Shenron, where those extra swings matter, I think that's the only time I've ever used that effect, really.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's see how your list is different from others.
Yeah, I've already been getting heat for my choices on this first one, but the first is the Gokul piece. When I look at Gokul, it's a great turn 1 play, but I do 3 Gokuls because you need to see turn 1, and then you get to start doing unison and fusion stuff. It's 1 energy. You get to look for a 6 or a 5, basically, in the Gotenks pieces. If it lives and they don't kill it, then you get to sacrifice it, reveal a fusion target, and then find pieces between 3 and 7 for it. Okay. Which you'll see the pieces later, but yeah, it's great turn 1 into turn 2 play.
And you didn't feel like 3 was too little and that 4 would have been better?
No, I really didn't. I think that when I see it, obviously I keep it turn 1, but as you'll see later, some of the fusion pieces have interactions where they allow you to do stuff turn 1 too, and sometimes it's better to get in some extra swings when they have less defense up, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. The next thing to talk about when talking about this deck is, of course, the boy who's so good. It's Grim Reaper, the 6-drop. I run 4 of them, and so this card is really why I wanted to play this deck. It just has so much value printed on 1 card. You get to, for 2 energy, put down a deflect dual attack for 25k. That threatens basically every unison right now. I think every unison printed it threatens, even the secret rare, because that's at 25k if it's there. You get to KO something, no energy restriction. Again, just insane value on that. And the fusion pieces, if you get lucky and do the Trunks one, then you get to look top 7 for Unison. So if your Unison's out and you play this card, you get to essentially draw 3 and look at top 7 for your Unison. So on top of that, it's just a...
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah, it's fair and balanced, as we say in Minnesota. Very fair and balanced. So, I mean, that card, it speaks for itself. It's in every list. It's at 4 of. There's no cutting that card ever. The next one, I've actually taken the Minnesota advice on this one, and it's the All Out Assault, the SR from Set 11, and I run it at 3.
So most people run it at 2. What inspired you to run it at 3 going into that day?
Because we have somebody in Minnesota. It's Berg. He loves to play Invoker, and it's so great to just have them tap 3. They feel so safe, and if you already have a Grim Reaper out, you evolve onto it. If you only have the pieces, then you Union Fusion to it. You remove markers if it's any other elite, or if it's any other deck that's running Unisons. It's a double strike for 30k deflect, and it goes through barrier. I don't know what else you need to say. If you know what decks like Invoker do, going through barrier is so important.
Vegeta's a little rascal.
Yeah, and it's
In your other matchups, how much did it matter to have this card?
This card, it mattered some because it's always good to threaten double strike. Grim Reaper's good, but if you don't have the energy to threaten double strike and you need to just put a body down that's going to go, if you have taken their whole hand down, you don't want to give them a look at that extra card, double strike is never a bad thing. It's just situational. Sometimes some games it's just a charge target because you're just going to Grim Reaper every time you can, but I mean, its utility, just like all of Go Tanks, its utility depends on what matchup you're going to do. So, yeah. The obvious downside compared to the Grim Reaper is that you don't get your pieces back. So when you're going to use it, you have to be prepared to lose those pieces or find a way to cycle them.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the next cards that we're going to are the Unisons. Best Unison for green right now, if you're going to play Go Tanks.
Yeah, a little specific, but definitely threat.
It's very specific, but this is the Unison you run in this deck. This is what gives you the extra draw on Fusion. It's what gives you your battle cards Revenge on +2. I think that Revenge on battle cards is always good, especially when you start running blockers, because it makes them decide what they're going to do with their swings, and you can't beat the -7.
Yeah, how often were you resolving that -7?
-7, it's usually resolved when they overcommit and they don't think that you're going to survive. If they don't think you have a shocking, if they think they can get through your blockers, they decide to just ignore it, and then all of a sudden you dormant when they swing at lead, you have a blocker, and then you stack it to 7, or you just -7, and then you pick their life and take cards from their hand. So good. Yeah, I mean, the Unison speaks for itself. If you don't know what this does, you gotta take a look at Go Tanks. That's what makes it work. The fusion pieces, we're gonna go through the Trunks that I use. I use this card at 3 of. This is the piece that when you drop it, you get to look top 7 for a specified 2 cost, which helps you get your engine. At that point, I always look top 7 first, because nothing worse than drawing your 3 from that and picking a unison that you could have just picked from the top 7. So, pretty much the only thing. This is the other turn 1 play that I talked about. You can discard it for 1 green if you're going second and you need to put on some pressure. You get to pick one of the opposite pieces, a Go 10 of 3 or less from your deck and play it. So aside from his fusion piece, he can then pull my next fusion, which I think everybody should run it for, just because it's the only one that is both. It allows
Both names.
Yeah, both names. It's pretty good. Who would have thought? You just get to decide which one you need it for. He has an ability when you bounce him back to hand. You look top 5 for a Unison or a Go Tanks piece. So utility, making sure that you can, put on some extra pressure in the early matches.
Find that Unison right away.
His green, where you crit yourself, I've actually won many games by pulling Zeno out. Sell Zeno. The secret we'll talk about later. Because it's an easy 3. 1 energy crit yourself if you think you're going to win with Sell Zeno. It's an easy 3. I mean, it's just such a utilitarian fusion piece. The next pieces, if you can get them, so good. They're the tournament pack cards. I run them at 1 apiece. With the Gokul effect, you can search, and if you can find both these guys in deck, you can basically just Grim Reaper until you can't stop. Just keep paying energy, and 1 green, bring it to your hand. So, yeah, these I think they've come in clutch very many times in Minnesota. I mean,
Drop area effects in green.
yeah, who would have think? Who would have thought? Speaking of the secret, I know I mentioned it with the 2-guy fusion piece. Another reason why Grim Reaper's dumb, 6 + 6 = 12. And you can do that very fast and out of nowhere.
With deflect.
With deflect. There's nothing better. This card, honestly, it's I held off on buying it for so long, and I shouldn't have. This card just wins games. It rips cards and swings so many times.
Every time.
Every time. There were a couple games where I just Zeno'd, took cards out of their hand, and if I didn't win, I didn't win, but they lost a lot of cards and a lot of defense. So, yeah, I mean, Secret speaks for itself. The kind of defense and the blockers, I run Zarbon at 3, drop area effects, 1 green energy, you drop a card from your hand, and then if he is KO'd, which with the Unison he'll have blocker, or revenge. So revenge blocker, very good. And when he's KO'd, if they have 5 or more cards in their hand, then they lose 1. They have to drop 1. Best time that I ever had with this is dropping himself to play himself. Just it's a card that's got to go to the drop anyway, and there you go. Just kind of keep on going. Other defense blockers, it's the card from set 10. If you have the specified unison cost of 2, you just play it for free. Free is good. This and the Frieza's the charismatic villain. Another easy way to get to 12, aside from being a blocker that can get revenge. Another way to get to 12 for your secret.
Cool.
Yeah. The card that I debated for so long, I thought about putting in Earth Destroying Kamehamehas because essentially they both are a 1 energy play, but this one is just so much better. We don't have many other Gotenks players in the state, but this would be the mirror match winner. If you can get out 1 or even 2 of this guy, he's indestructible, so he's safe from Gotenks matchups. And every time he swings, he threatens life, and he makes him drop a card. I mean, this is draft box at its finest. Just good, and never goes down in price, ever.
It didn't used to be great, and then they printed the free green counterplay.
Free 5. There you go. More hand destruction. I think that's why Gotenks can be so good, is because plussing with Grim Reapers and making them minus with cards like Ribrianne and Zamasu, Deity's Wrath, like we just talked about. I think that's your main discard engine right there. If you can start making them lose cards.
Zarbon, and then finishing with Celzino.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of times, that's how I ended up, with the help of Ribrianne, I ended up in my second round against the Gogeta player. He topoed me, and I had 5 energy. He had about 6 cards in hand, and I just whittled his hand down to nothing and said, okay, pass turn. Roshi, I mean, just cycles dormants. That's his purpose.
That's his job.
That's his job. Yeah, 1 green energy to get a dormant back, save your life. Not too bad. Super combos, I run a 2-2 split, Paragus and Vegeta. The set 10, another good reason to just drop cards. 1 energy, make them drop that extra card if they're only at 1. Seems worth it. And, super combo.
Most people are still at this rate, kind of still on that Gero or Android 18 and then Paragus, either splitting in some sort of fashion, those 3. Vegeta, how did it really feel for you throughout the day and in your testing?
It's so much. I get Gero and I get finding the Ribrianne, but there's so many times I come down to maybe having 10 cards in deck. So, I mean, I'm seeing what I need to see. I'm putting in my drop what I need to do. But another reason why this is good is 1 + 5, that's a 6. Adds up towards 12. Just 1 energy, get closer to Celzeno. So, yeah, this has been the all-star for me, basically, when it comes to hand destruction and using those super combos to the max. And the card we've been talking so much about. Frieza, charismatic villain. Unison in play, at least 2 markers. Just kill whatever they played if it's 7 or less. And of course, doesn't have barrier, indestructible, but it hits a lot of important stuff. And with the Deity's Wrath, it makes it more even. You put a card down, maybe put a Zarbon or a Ribrianne in the drop, threaten damage, and then 1 energy, swap it out and have an indestructible that takes care of their hand. And another card that speaks for itself, Dormant Potential. You have it free with a Unison. You drop a card when you do it. You KO things up to 2 energy. So I didn't play many blue decks that played Obuni. I feel like a lot of blue decks are against Gotenks or against green, just expecting the Obuni not playing the Obuni because of Dormant. And I think that a card that stops one of their main threats without maybe even having it in hand.
You don't have to have it in hand.
No, because
The threat of it is too
they-
strong.
What are they going to do? Pay 4 energy, maybe restand 1, and have a card that can be KO'd with Grim Reaper? It just doesn't seem good.
No.
But
They're running Merchurian now.
yeah,
They/we.
they are. Yeah, you're on that train too. I tried to keep it at 3-2 with the Roshis and just kind of cycle them back, but if you see a Roshi instead of a Dormant, you feel sad.
Because you'd rather just have the dormant.
Exactly. Roshi's good when you can bring it back for extra value. Negates. Shocking Deathball, run it at 3. I always run Shocking Negates because decks will keep you at unawakening points. You can tap out with Dormant, have 1 blocker, and all your attacks are covered. And then, depending on how much they committed or what they played, you can just crack back. And you just feel so safe with a blocker on board and those 2 cards. It's just entirely safe, or at least it feels that way in most games. The card that's almost as good as Dormant in utility is Max Power Kamehameha. I've played many Gogeta matches, and I mull for this. I find it, I play it. Every single time the 6-drop hits field, it's gone. I don't think a Gogeta's ever gotten to the secret rare before, at least in my matches, just because I dig for this card because it's too good not to have. You play Dormant Potential, sure, maybe they get you down to 4, but you keep 1 energy up, pay it, and then get it back to warp their big thing next turn. So much value, especially in red matchups. It's worse in Broly against Broly swap, but in Gogeta, you feel so winnable. And then every aggro deck's favorite card, Champa.
But you have double strikes.
But you know what card doesn't have double strike that's so dangerous and that just feels so good to throw down double strike on?
That and then this.
Yeah, really anything. It's kind of what Champa-
Zamasu.
Sure, indestructible double strike. What's wrong with that? Yeah, but that's it. That's my profile.
Some noticeable things. No Overrealm. What kind of inspired, or rather lack of inspired, you to cut Overrealm from the deck?
Cutting Overrealm is because it's so important to me to get the value from your Grim Reapers and recycle. And if you knowingly put like the brimming cards there, it just doesn't. The value in the long game doesn't equate for it. Sure, you get an extra swing, you get to KO a couple things, you get to maybe warp something or get a free double strike or critical, but losing 2 fusion pieces, if you draw into a Grim Reaper or the All Out Assault and you warped away your pieces, you're just so sad. You're just so sad. But no, it worked out really well, and it's a fun deck.
Perfect. One more time for your name, how you placed, and have a good one.
Yeah, that's Anthony Torres. I was on Gotenks in Minnesota, and I went 3-0.
Thank you so much.